Welcome back to my Colorado Mountain Garden and Homestead. I'm going to give you an update on the tomatoes you're seeing in front of you, and then I'll talk briefly about tomatoes, um, the smaller tomatoes, the dwarf tomatoes the other ones I have growing. But we're going to focus on these tiny Tims for right now. These were grown from seeds that I saved. Most of them I saved from last year. So any harvest that I got last year, I did save a few seeds from the tomatoes that I grew, the dwarf tomatoes that I grew over the winter, which were the tiny Tims and the orange hats. But it wasn't as much as I saved during the year last year. So for all practical purposes, these are last year's seeds. And I don't typically save seeds from the first couple tomatoes that come off of a plant. I wait till they're a little older because you seem to get larger seeds and things like that because they're not getting as stressed as much because they're planted and they're growing. So the tomato um, grows to basically the pretty much the max size or pretty close to the max size. So if you're saving tomato seeds, just remember that. Don't take the first few. You're better off harvesting your seeds from tomatoes in the middle of the season or the end of the season. Just because those are going to be a full-size plant that hasn't been stressed as much. So before it starts getting cold, you probably want to take the tomato seeds. So that's the best I can say. I don't know why they tell you to do that, but that's, that's just what I do. So again, I started the seeds on 412 in paper towel. The last time you saw these Tiny Tim tomatoes was in a video. They were in solo cups, and that was 512. So that was about a month, maybe a couple extra days, depending on how many days were in the month, from when I started them. Then I up potted them to these quart containers. These are just deli containers. If we get takeout, I save them, but I don't buy, I buy these deli containers from Sam's Club, and I buy them in a big box because I'm tired of spending money on plastic containers that break. And these deli containers are pretty darn durable, so I figured, heck, I'll use them for a pot and they'll probably just be just as durable. They're dishwasher safe on the top and on the bottom. So when I'm done with these containers, they will get washed and I'll stack them for next year. So I mentioned I up potted these on 5/17. So today's the 22nd, so that's 5 days ago. And the first thing I wanted to do is I'm going to go ahead and try and scroll in here. We'll see how good I'm at doing at this. So that right there, let me try and line it up more in the middle so we can just bring it in, is a flower bloom getting ready to open. And there's several little buds. Let's see if I can get my big fat finger in here. Well, there's that one's getting ready to open, plus there's a few more right in here. Okay, let me scroll back out. So these are getting ready to bloom, but that's not the purpose of my video today. It's kind of to show you the growth of the roots. So let's scroll in on this one because I think it has the best picture. And I'll move it up. So 5 days ago, I moved these from solo cups into these quart-sized containers. So there was soil that went around the edge and everything like that. But you can already see how many roots All those are all brand new. All those white roots. That's what's kind of cool about using clear containers. And you can see there that is the roots are getting near the holes. Let's see if I can tip this enough. No, I can't. I'm afraid that the dirt's going to empty out. But let's bring up the other one. Again, plants just amaze me at how fast they produce roots and things like that. Not as much along in here, but, it's getting there. Now, keep in mind that probably this plant was down to about here. So the majority of the roots were at the bottom. So that's why we're seeing a little more there. But we are seeing some up in here. And the highest one is this one. That's on that plant. Let's see. I got stickers on here. So we even have some. It's not very... it looks like a long way to travel, but it's basically an inch from the top is what that one is. And it's pretty cool. So, with these now, these Tiny Tims, hang on, let's scroll back out here. They get to be 18 to 24 inches. And this one also is, see if I can get it in here, get it to focus. There are, let's try and turn it here. You can see those are all the buds for the blooms that are getting ready to start. So these are not going to be going outside in my garden like anytime soon. Probably, I'm going to guess, second week of June. I just have too low of temps, and I'm not going to heat my gardens because it costs a lot to heat the greenhouse. You have to realize that my big greenhouse is very tall. So heat rises. Well, I've got vents up there. They don't close. They close completely, but it's not airtight or anything like that. So I try to wait as long as I can before I put plants out. Most of these tomatoes have already made it outside at least once on my deck to harden off on a nice day. It was probably, I would say that mostly in the shade, but it finished up with sun. So about 3 or 4 hours of sun. And that's what I do. I try to hold them in the smallest pot as possible. All of my big tomatoes, like my Better Bush, my Crims, and my Ace 55 will go into 5-gallon containers. I have some extras of those, and if nobody wants to purchase them locally here, then those are going to go in the hoop house. The hoop house is open on both ends, meaning that there's no plastic on it. So the ends are open. The top has plastic, but I still have venting along the bottom. It's about 2 feet tall. And then it just has some of the hardware cloth over the openings so that the chipmunks and stuff like that can't get inside and eat my plants. Well, we're getting close. I still am getting temps in the high 20s at night. Now, it looks like it's going to warm up a bit here in the next few days, where the temps are higher. But I really don't want to put anything out in the big greenhouse until I know it's holding in the big greenhouse at 40, because all it's going to do is stress my plant. It's not going to do me any good. If they're stressed, they're not really going to grow much bigger. They're just going to be trying to stay alive. They're going to feel like they're cold. They would rather be out there at 50 or above. So, and when I say above, yeah, you don't want them at 110. That's why I have to use shade cloth and things like that. So hopefully all of this makes sense. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but the purpose of this video was really to just show you how quickly those roots produce. It's, like I said, it's been 5 days since they went from a solo cup to these quart size. I just happened to put them in these containers this year. I used a soldering iron to make the holes in my cup here. And then there's some on the bottom. And yes, I go overkill with that because I believe drainage is good. And especially when your plants are smaller. But other than that, I use black nursery pots. My 1 gallons are black nursery pots. My 5 gallons are black nursery pots. My 3 gallons are black nursery pots. And I have a few 10-gallon black nursery pots. But from there, it goes up to plastic pots that I believe they're 15 that I purchased either from Sam's or Costco. They're several years old, so if something goes in a larger than a 5-gallon, it usually goes in those. I use drippers around all my tomatoes. If they're in a bed, I have a grid system, a square foot grid system made out of PVC piping. It's called Garden in Minutes is where I purchased those from. If they are in pots, I have rings that I bought from, I believe it was Drip Depot. And so it's like a white ring, and I want to say they're either 8 or 10 inches around. So you put them around the stem. I don't know if let me scroll in here some more and move this out. So they have they're a circle, but there's still a spot. So you can put them around the stem. They have several holes that drip below, and they have these little spiky things that hold them in place. I have found that, and you just hook them onto a regular drip system. So whatever your normal drip system is. So if you used to use just the single emitters that you kind of set by your plant, this just goes around the stem, and it has several holes that drip down below. We have found, because we're on well water, that using these other drippers, and if anybody wants to see those, when I pull them out, because I wash them and soak them in vinegar at the end of each year to get any calcium buildup or anything like that off of them, I'll pull them out and do a video, but you gotta let me know. Give me a comment down below and let me know if you want to see those. And with being on well water, you don't get the other ones. They just have a tiny hole and you can open them up a little bit, but sometimes they get clogged. And the bad thing is if you don't notice it, let's say you go out of town even for a couple days and you're depending on these little drippers, and they get clogged, then your plant's not getting the water that it probably needs. And during the summer, that's super important since it's a lot warmer out. So these ones we've never had clog. And I've been using them for the last, I think it's 4 years now. It may be a total of 5 because I think I bought a few to try at first. And then I switched them over to just where it's rolling out of a hole. There's no emitter there. There's no nothing. It just comes out in that ring. There's enough pressure going through the hose that it comes out of all the little holes around the ring. I can't tell you how many are in there. I'd have to pull them out and count them, but at least 5, possibly 6 in each one. So it waters them really well. Now, these are getting close to needing to be watered. You can still kind of see some condensation and stuff in here. And I go by weight. When they get light, well, I water them. So there's no real schedule. I just know that typically at this size, I don't really need to water them more than every 5 days. Now, as we get more roots in here, that's going to change. As this gets more root bound, it's going to be pulling up more water. So it may be every 3 days. It's usually not every day, and I don't water from the top. I let them suck up from the bottom. So I have it's not a bucket, it's a tub, like a hospital tub or a dish tub. And I fill it up so that when I can do, with these pots, I can probably only do 4. So it's going to be filled up with water till like right around in here. I give it about 10 or 15 minutes to absorb up what it wants. Then I just set them on a black tray so they can kind of drain out any excess water. And while I'm soaking the other ones, and then put them back on my shelf. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Happy gardening, and hopefully I'll get to the next video, which I'm going to be giving the oregano a really big prune, and I hope to show you that. Happy gardening.